deliver. Goalkeepers nervous, strikers they'll deliver. Crowd roars erupted. You can.
Hello, Chelsea fans. Today we are talking about Chelsea, of course, Chelsea transfer business, talking about strikers. Let's see what happened. It feels like absolute madness, in my opinion. You know, links with Victor Osimhen, obviously links to Benjamin Sesko, links to, Ekitike, and then some odd sort of link to Emegha. Emegha is a player, I've done a reaction video to, and I think he's a very, very good young striker. But I think at this minute, maybe not quite what Chelsea really needs at this point, but we'll get into all of those. So for me, Sesko, high upside, a lot of potential, can do a job obviously as a striker. But for me, I still think he still needs time to develop. And I'll say this, if this was the first window under Clearly Capital, I would have been more up for it. I would say, come on now, this is a young player sort of strategy. He's a very good young prospect. So going into the season, he has 2-3 seasons to develop to come good. But we're heading into what will be the sixth window under this Clearly Capital, led ownership of Chelsea. And right now, Chelsea do not need another striker that you need 2, 3, 4 years to come good. Because one, the pressure will be so massive on any striker that's coming in right now. And you want a striker that will hit the ground running. We've got the McGee. Now you may argue that Benjamin Sesko is of a higher profile than McGee. He's been playing more first team senior football than than obviously than McGee. He's been leading the line for a team in the German Bundesliga. So fair dues, fair play, if that's your opinion on it. And I agree with you to an extent. But the point still remains. Sesko coming to Chelsea will still be another project striker. He's very, very good. And for me, if everything fails, if all the number one targets fail, like for instance, Victor Osimhen, which is my number one target, my number one choice, if that fails and there's nothing, there's no other option, Benjamin Sesko wouldn't be a bad buy. But is that what Chelsea really need? Chelsea really needs, or just really requires at this point in the season? For me, no. No. And for me, I think the scouting network, the statisticians, the tactics people, haven't they been doing their job, all this while? That now you're being linked with 4 different strikers. Now, and then for me, my number one choice obviously Victor Osimhen, because I think he is the ready-to-go striker, not just in terms of his ability, obviously, but the intangible of getting to play in the Premier League or playing in the Premier League. He is the most ready to play in the Premier League of all the strikers. He's got the physicality, he's got the aggression, he's got that attitude. So he's not going to be intimidated by any other player, any other defender, midfielder. And plus, he scores the goals. So it's not one of those where he has the intangibles, but he doesn't have the end product. Then, if you're talking about, then we'll move on to talk about Emegha. Emegha, for me, he is still very, very young. And the link is even a very weird link. He's not, according to Fabrizio Romano, he's not coming in this season, but rather he would be signed, a pre-agreement to be signed between Chelsea and Emegha and Strasbourg, that he joins the club in the 2026-2027 season. And for me, while that sounds nice, it sounds like a nice prospect, it sounds like a nice idea, tying up your future. But what it means is you're losing focus. You should be having focus on this Champions League, on the 2025-2026 season, the Champions League, the Club World Cup, the Premier League. Be ready to win now. Be ready to go now. Not what's going to happen in the next 3, 4, 5 years. Be ready to go now. And if you're signing an Osimhen, if you're signing a Victor Gyökeres, they're not 30, they're not over 30. They're still in their late 20s, 26, 27. So that means they still can give you 3, 4, 5 good years. So this all this talk of, oh, we want to secure the future for the next 10 years. How about you win now? And for me, the Emmanuel Emegha sort of link is just silly for me. It's just madness. I like the player. He can be eligible to play for Nigeria, so everything sort of aligns to a player that I would rate. He has the qualities, obviously, but he is still very, very young, and that's not what Chelsea need right now. Once again, just like a Sesko, if everything fails and it turns out that you're stuck with, Nicholas Jackson, then you can say, okay, what do we do? We need to sign an actual number 9. Let's sign an Emegha. But if you say that is who you want to go for, then that's just silliness, in my opinion. Silliness. Now, Hugo Ekitike is almost like something Enzo Maresca cooked up in his dream, because you really remember the statement that he made to say, when they were asking him about the type of strikers he liked, he went on to say he wished he had 2 Nicholas Jacksons. Now, Hugo Ekitike, mobile striker, pacey, can run the channels. But for me, look at the price as well, £83 million. And believe me, Frankfurt will get most of that money from whoever decides to make a concrete offer for Hugo Ekitike. And another issue I have with Hugo Ekitike is the physicality. Yes, it's an issue. You can have all the technique you want, but once you come to the Premier League and you want to play possession football, sexy football, you want to be, nice on the ball, run the channels, defenders or opposition teams would always ask you this question. You can pass the ball, yes. You can be nice on the ball, yes. But can you deal with the physicality we're going to bring against you? Can you deal with the high pressing? Can you deal with, a Van Dijk bashing into you? Can you cope with that? And for me, Hugo Ekitike doesn't strike me as the striker I can feel that can do that. Now, if you get 2 strikers, let's say you get the Victor Osimhen, obviously, and you get the Hugo Ekitike as a slightly better option than Jackson, technically, then I can say, yeah, I can back that. But if you're signing Hugo Ekitike as the main striker, for me, that's a non-starter. Because the excuse, what I'm pointing out right now, and some people I know will be saying, oh, come on, what are you talking about? It's all about the physicality. He can score goals. He has that pace. He has the skill, he has the technique. He has the shooting technique. So he can cut it. But when the Premier League starts, come August this year, we will revisit this topic. And if Chelsea, ends up signing Hugo Ekitike as the only striker going into next season, we'll all be here after games complaining about Hugo Ekitike's lack of physicality. Now, I see some people trying to compare him with Thierry Henry. Now, Thierry Henry wasn't built like a brick house, but he was physical. He was physical. He was ready to, get physical with defenders. Now, can Hugo Ekitike do that? Now, if you're signing him as another profile, a different profile of striker, then yes, in addition to an actual number 9. And one other thing that is an intangible that I keep mentioning that people, for some reason, choose to ignore. If you sign the Sesko, has he led the team on a title run before? Has he done that? Hugo Ekitike, the same question. Definitely Emmanuel Emegha hasn't. He's been very, very good for Strasbourg, but he hasn't. And that's very important. And then we talk about leadership. There are 3 key areas, or rather 4 key areas, where you usually have leaders in the team. Your goalkeeper, your centre back, in midfield, whether you're 10 or you're 6, and your striker. These 4 players, these 4 positions form the spine of the team, and that's where your leadership comes from. So would the Cole Palmer be looking at Hugo Ekitike for leadership? Would you be inspired by him? Would you be looking at a Sesko? Would you be looking at an Emegha for leadership? Now, for all the strikers I've mentioned, if it comes end of the day, the club chooses not to go for an Osimhen, chooses not to go for a Victor Gyökeres, and it ends up that these are the strikers you're signing, then what can we do? But now we have all the excuses out of the window. It used to be no Champions League football, so we can't afford to pay the big bucks. But now you've got Champions League football, you finish fourth. And if you really are sincere about competing for not just top four, but at least chasing the title as hard as you can, then you must get a ready to go striker. Strikers that I describe as wake up in the morning, 20 goals guaranteed. Wake up in the morning, 20 goals a season guaranteed in the Premier League. And Gyökeres is one of them that can guarantee you that. Victor Osimhen is one that can guarantee you that. Now, profile-wise, Liam Delap can feel like that kind of player. But the question comes in still, and people ignore this, but it will always come. It is there. This is the Premier League after all. You know, he's been playing for Ipswich Town. And it's just the truth. When you play for clubs lower down the table, you have more time on the ball, you have more space on the ball because teams play you differently. And that experience leading a team on a title challenge, not necessarily winning it, but you were there, being a main contributor, scoring those goals, pushing the team forward. It's really, really very important. And some people will say, oh, you're just talking because you like Victor Osimhen. Yes, I like Victor Osimhen. Was there not to like? But if you get the Victor Gyökeres, you could say, okay, yeah, it's someone that is slightly different profile of striker, but he has that experience winning league titles. You may choose to laugh at the Portuguese league because that's what you get sometimes from a lot of Premier League fans. Every other league is the Farmers League. The French league is the Farmers League. The Portuguese league is the Farmers League. So only the Premier League is where football is played. But when you come into a club with that winning mentality already, it rubs up on every other person in the team. And I tell you, this Chelsea team, because of how young it is and how lacking inexperience it is, bereft of experience, you need people that will come in ready to go with experience, with that winning mentality, straight into the team and ready to go. Now let's look at the stats of these players, for the season so far. So of course, I'll start with Victor Osimhen. So obviously on loan from Napoli to Galatasaray. So far he's made 29 appearances, scored 25 goals, 5 assists. So that's 30 goals. That's in the Superliga. That's 30 goals in the Superliga. In the Champions League and Europa League, he's made 7 appearances, scored 6 goals, 1 assist. So total appearances in all competitions, 46. Total goals in all competitions, 40. Total assists in all competitions, 7. So that's 47 goal contributions in all competitions. That's just 3 shy of 50. That's absolute madness, absolute crazy statistics in anyone's book. And I know people will say, oh, it's Galatasaray, oh, it's the Turkish league. But you have to go there and show yourself. You have to go there and prove yourself. You have to go there and score those goals and take those chances. So he's gone there, he's done it, and he's done it in Napoli as well. And he's been in Europe for a long time. He's been doing it he did it for Lille, although, of course, with the status of Lille, their purchasing power, you don't expect Lille to win the league. You don't expect Lille, to really push PSG to win the league title. PSG are absolutely dominant in the French league, but he scored 18 goals in a season in Lille. He played in the Champions League. So he has the experience, he has this winning mentality. He's won Scudetto Napoli, he's won the Turkish Cup, he's won the Turkish League. So he's got that winning mentality, he's got that aggression. And for Chelsea fans that maybe listen to what the media say a bit too much and doubt Victor Osimhen, I guarantee you, if Chelsea signed Victor Osimhen, the very first match he plays for Chelsea, every fan will fall in love with Victor Osimhen. Every fan will fall in love with him. And I know a lot of people want to come with, attitude issues. No, it's being exaggerated. So for me, that's Victor Osimhen. The stats speak for himself. He has every intangible, I think, to be Chelsea's main striker. You may be tired of me saying it, but he is a top striker, and he is the kind of striker Chelsea needs. And his type of striker is rare, right? You had DJ Drogba, you had Diego Costa, and now you have Victor Osimhen. You don't have those type of strikers that scare the life out of defenders, that defenders don't really want to come up against. So that Victor Osimhen, for me, that's my first choice. Let me know in the comments what you think about Victor Osimhen. And then we go to Benjamin Sesko. So overall in all competitions, he's had 45 appearances in all competitions, 21 goals, total assists in all competitions, 6. So he's made 27 goal contributions in 45 games. So you can see the difference. You may argue that the Bundesliga is a slightly tougher league than the Turkish league, and I won't argue with you there, but that winning mentality still comes in. That edge, experience still comes in, for me. So I think Victor Osimhen still edges here. But once again, I'll say this: if it turns out, come the end of the window, Jackson is the only option you have. Who else can you get? And the club says we're going for a Benjamin Sesko. For me, no complaints here, because Chelsea cannot afford to go into next season, 2025-2026 season, with Nicholas Jackson as the lone striker, as the only striker. You cannot afford to do that. Because for me, one issue with Nicholas Jackson is this: he improved in the early part of this season with respect to true passes. When most of the true passes that were played into his path, you run 1v1 goalkeeper, convert. 1v1 goalkeeper, convert. But each time the ball would come into the box, whether in-swinging cross, out-swinging cross, low-driven cross across goal, Jackson would be in a different postcode. And just being alive in the box, being active in the box, being aware in the box, guarantees a striker 10 goals. Guarantees a striker 10 goals. Just being aware in the box, being alive in the box, doing nothing else guarantees you 10 goals. Then when you add that to other goals you score, that's 20 goals a season easily. But Nicholas Jackson doesn't give you that. So you cannot go into next season with Nicholas Jackson as your main striker. If you can help it, he's not even your number 2. I've said it all through this season. Nicholas Jackson is more suited to playing that left wing role. A lot of people would argue, a lot of people would disagree. That's fine. That's what football is all about. Having 20 content here on YouTube, being a pundit on the different mainstream media platforms. Football is subjective. You have a subjective opinion. But for me, Nicholas Jackson is best suited to playing at that left wing, because with his skill, his speed, and his height, because he will be one of the tall wingers, to go up against a left back, that would really be a big problem for that left back. Big problem. I guarantee you that. And he could even come up with double-digit goals plus an assist. And I think he isn't quite ready he isn't quite suited to have that burden of being a number 9. Because being a number 9 seems a sexy role, seems a role that every player would love to play. But the burden that comes with it, because for every missed chance, is on your back. For goals you don't score, is on your back. For the touches you don't even have, and your team doesn't win, your pressure is on you. So for me, he's best suited to playing at that, left wing. Now, for me, that's one reason I say I want a Victor Osimhen, and I think Sesko can do that as well. The amount of crosses that Chelsea put in the box, you have Victor Osimhen there. He is lion-hearted. The way he goes for crosses, that sometimes you feel his life is in danger when he attacks the ball. And that's the sort of striker, that is the sort of personality that you need. And so Sesko can be someone that can come in and do a job as well, but definitely Chelsea shouldn't be going into next season with Nicholas Jackson as a sole striker, because it just wouldn't make any sense to me. And then we go to Hugo Ekitike. Frankfurt appearances. He had 33 appearances, or in all competitions, he had 37 appearances in all competitions, total goals in all competitions 18, total assists 10. So that's in all 28 goal contributions. Now that's not bad. That's not too bad, especially I think that's very decent, especially if you're playing for Frankfurt, a team that you don't really see them punching into top four in the German league, and especially everyone knows that in the Bundesliga, um, Bayern has the stronghold, and then of course the likes of Leipzig and Dortmund are up there, and then Frankfurt. They're not what I say, like traditional prestigious side, but they're not really the team you look at to say, okay, this is a side that's going to really threaten, the likes of the Bayern Munich for the German league title. But so this decent. But for me, it is the profile of striker he is. And I just think it's not the kind of profile that Chelsea needs, that Chelsea requires at this time. He's just one of those type of players that likes to run the channels. He has pace. He has skill. He'll play off wide on the left and cut in on his right foot and score that way. And one issue you may say this is the flaw, or you may just say this is how he chooses to play. It may just be his preference. He doesn't really like that contact with defenders. And in the Premier League, you will get it. If any defender sniffs the fact that you as a striker, you don't really want to engage, you don't really like that physical contact, that brute force on you, then that's what you'll be getting all day. That's what you'll be getting all day. And for me, like I said, if you're getting him in as a second striker, or maybe you feel this is slightly better Nicholas Jackson, then okay. But you can't make him the number one out and out striker. You cannot. You cannot make him the out and out number one striker, because you are going to struggle. And I know now that people who love, every new thing, every new player on the block, and they say bring. And for me as well, his price for what he's done is a bit much. And I'm telling you, Frankfurt, they know how to sell their strikers. Sebastian Hela signed to West Ham from Frankfurt. This Serbian striker, I've forgotten his name. Real Madrid signed him, and he went to Real Madrid and flopped. But to be fair to him, lots of players, they go to Real Madrid and the size of the club just swallows them up. So, but then he went to AC Milan and didn't quite do anything there as well. So they know how to sell their strikers, because they play to the strikers. Now, would Hugo Ekitike be a fit for Chelsea? No, not as a number 9, not as the number one out and out striker, in my opinion. Because of how Chelsea chooses to play, how Chelsea plays, number one, how Chelsea play, number one, and what the opposition teams would do. Because sometimes when you're a lot of fans of clubs, well, you see the traditional top 4 clubs, we seem to forget that other clubs exist, other managers exist, and they don't exist for the joy of Chelsea, the joy of Arsenal, the joy of Man City. They exist for their own self. They have their own objectives. So when they're coming up against you, they're setting up themselves in a way where they're looking to win, looking to get the best result they can get. And if that means get hard and tight to you, get really physical, press you high up, then that's what they'll do. And I think someone like Hugo Ekitike will really struggle, in my opinion. That's how I say it. I don't know what you think about it, but I think he will really struggle in that regard. And then when Chelsea plays as well, because of the high pressing, everyone in the Premier League wants to do this high pressing thing. I think except Nottingham Forest were the only team I think I watched this season that didn't get drawn into this high pressing madness. They'll sit deep, score the first goal, and then be tight to break at the back, and then hit you on the counter attack with Hudson-Odoi and I've forgotten the other winger's name, but Elanga, yeah, that's his name, and hit you on the break with those two pacey wingers. So When you have people pressing you high up, you need someone like a Victor Osimhen. He's one of those hit and hope strikers. And this may seem like, look, I'm just saying, I'm just talking, but when a team is pressing you high, you need to have a striker that is hit and hope, that you just know he will be there. You just hit the ball over the top, you know he's going to be there. If you want to play that pass, you know, that long pass, you know he's going to be there. He's going to make the runs. You know, if you cross that ball into the box, even if it's not the prettiest ball, Victor Osimhen will be there. That sort of striker is what I think Chelsea needs this season. And Chelsea must be very careful this season. Chelsea really, really, absolutely needs to get the striker decision right this season. I mean, this coming season, you need to get it right. You can't afford to make any mistakes with this. And then we go to Emegha. Emegha, like I said, this is an odd one to me. It's an odd one to me for two reasons. The first one is Chelsea reportedly are ready to sign a pre-agreement with Strasbourg and with the player to get him to join the club, not this season, but next season, that's 2026, 2027 season. Now, that's a bit odd to me. Why the hurry? Why the rush? You see him as the future. You see him as someone that can be good, to be so good. Why the rush? You know, if he's that good, why not sign him? Why not sign him immediately and let him join the club? You know, you're securing him for the future. And then on the second side of it, even if you see him as the future and you want to sign a sort of pre-agreement with him, is there really a need for that? Strasbourg are in the same club network as Chelsea, same ownership. So if you really want an Emegha, you don't need to stress yourself about it. Come next season, you can go, come the upper season, that is 2026, 2027 season, you can get him. For instance, RB Salzburg and RB Leipzig. If if RB Leipzig wants a player from RB Salzburg, it's never such an issue. Come transfer window, you just know if Leipzig bids for that player, they're going to get a player. I think that's how they got Sesko. You just knew once they were interested in it, everyone else is out of the picture. So I don't get why Chelsea, have this sort of urge to sign this pre-contract agreement and make such a fuss about it. And of course, I've had Fabrizio Romano briefed about it, and now he's made a video about it. For me, I don't really see the need there. He's not coming in this season, so what's the point? And talking about his stats, remember, I've done a video about him. I've done a video about it because I rate him as a young striker. And I said, for me, if Chelsea want to cheapskate, because that's what these owners have been doing, at least when it comes to the strikers, in terms of paying salaries, they don't mind signing an 18-year-old for close to £50 million. They don't mind doing that. But when it comes to paying the striker what he deserves, then it becomes an issue. Now, for me, I see him as the player where, once again, if we're heading towards the end of the transfer window and there's no other striker you can get, but you can't go into the season with Nicholas Jackson as the sole striker, as the only striker, then I would have an issue, because I think you should have done this. You should have sealed up your striking decision earlier on in the season, But then what do you do? You want to get a different profile of striker, then Emegha could fit at that point in the season. But for me, he's not my first choice. He's not my second choice, definitely. So far this season, he scored 14 goals in Ligue 1 with 3 assists. And then in all competitions, he's played 29 games, scored 14 goals, 13 assists, so 17 goal contributions. Yeah, 17 goal contributions. So not too bad, not too great, playing for a side like Strasbourg. So he fits the kind of profile-wise, he's 6'5", so he's a giant of a player. He's got the pace to running behind, and he's an actual striker, so he will take up those spots that Nicholas Jackson wouldn't. But the same question I've asked of Sesko, the same question I've asked of Ekitike, at least a slightly different question I will ask of an Ekitike is this. Same thing. Is he someone that Nicholas Jackson will look at and learn from? Is he someone that Cole Palmer will look at and be inspired by? Is he someone that can provide that on-field leadership? Enzo Maresca said this, and this is very important. It may seem like people are just talking. I'm just saying, but it's very important. As players, you come on the pitch, you see people who are leaders on the pitch. You see players that are leaders on the pitch. Just like I said it with Colwill. Colwill played his best football when he had Thiago Silva by his side. And that's not a mistake. Because Thiago Silva, obviously more experienced, was there to give him guidance. This is how you go, push up a bit. We want to set this offside trap. Players speak to themselves on the pitch. And that's what is sorely lacking, sorely missing in this Chelsea team. That experience, that leadership on the pitch. And sometimes when you need to use your discretion, because the coach will tell you do a lot of things, don't invert, don't overlap, invert always. But sometimes when the game is almost lost, 10 minutes to go, 25 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes to go, sometimes the players take the initiative on the pitch to change things. And this can only happen when you have those leaders on the pitch. So for me, if I was to choose, I would go with Victor Osimhen. That's my number one, absolute number one choice. I know what he brings 100% to a team. And I know what he's capable of bringing to Chelsea. 1000%. We may say, talk about him too much. Oh, if he wasn't Nigerian. No, he is a top level striker. I don't know how people don't see this. So Victor Osimhen, my absolute number one choice. Victor Gyökeres would be the second choice because he has got the experience. He has a title winning experience, which is very, very important, very crucial. If you want to win things, you need players that have been there, done it, won the t-shirt, and have the notebook as well. So I think he would be my second choice, although he's a bit transitional. But the way we're saying things, I think there's some reports saying, that Arsenal have put a bid about 70 million euros for him. I think that's slightly above his release clause. So if they're so close to it, maybe they sign him. Let's see what happens. But Arsenal have the tradition of scooping deals, of bottling deals. So maybe they're bottling, who knows? So Victor Osimhen, my number one, Gyökeres second. And then after these two, you then start going based on profile, not based on full capability, not based on what they can absolutely bring to the team 100%, not based on how they can absolutely guarantee you, wins, but start going on profiles. Then you go to a Sesko, and then you go to, for me, an Emegha before you go to a Hugo Ekitike. Hugo Ekitike is higher profile than Emegha, but in terms of profile, what he brings to the team, being that, out and out striker in the box, that can run in behind, that is really willing to physically engage defenders, which you need as a striker in the top club. Emegha is the better fit in that regard. I think I rate him in that regard higher than Hugo Ekitike in that regard as being that out and out striker. So, and then Hugo Ekitike, for me, like I said, you can't sign him as the only striker you're signing. And to be fair, there are only two strikers that you can sign and say, wow, we've signed. This is the only striker we're signing for the season, and let's go. Victor Osimhen or Victor Gyökeres. Now, you can be very greedy, splurge the cash, and sign Victor Gyökeres and Victor Osimhen, and let's score 250 goals in the league. That would be wonderful. You can do that. But if you want to sign one striker as the main guy, as the absolute main guy for Chelsea, for me, is a Victor Osimhen or a Victor Gyökeres. One of the Victors. Obviously, my first choice is Victor Osimhen. So, but then we've come to the point where the club, no more excuses. You must be ready to pay the big bucks. You must be ready. And I think, like I said before, in life, when you maybe in a business, any field you're in, you must learn from your competition. You must learn from people, in the same sort of business you are in, who are chasing the same goals and objectives that you're chasing. Learn from their successes, learn from their failures. Because if we really, really go back, we'll remember what used to be Arsenal. They used to sell this PR thing of, oh, Chelsea are buying the league, or Manchester United are buying the league. We don't want to buy the league. We want to use players from our academy. And each time it will be one young player that will be a flash in the pan, really pull up any trees. And then even when the player is about to come good, he ends up getting snapped up by another club. Because Arsenal were not ready to meet wage demands of the players, were not ready to give them the length of contract they wanted, and at that point, we're not able to offer them the opportunity to win. So they left the club. So Chelsea, you do not want to be in the same category as that Arsenal side, because that's what will happen. When you see a player, you refuse to pay him what he's worth, you refuse to pay him the salary that he's demanding, and then you begin to put out PR there of how the salary demands are too much, it's too high, about your wage structure. Then you won't get these players in, especially when you're in a competitive business like football. Because if you don't get a Victor Osimhen, maybe PSG comes in, they pay the money, they get him, and you're done. Or you end up wasting time, Arsenal come in, they get the Victor Gyökeres, and you're done. And then that means you now push Arsenal several rungs ahead of you. Rather than closing the gap, that means you now allow Arsenal to extend the gap ahead of you. This coming season, Chelsea should be looking to compete for the Premier League. Worst case scenario, 2 weeks to the end of the season, you're still within, it's still mathematically possible for you to win the league. So whichever team wins the league, you're not that far off. Maybe you're 4 points, 5 points away from that team. But you don't want to end this coming season being 20 points behind, behind the leader, or 15 points behind, or even 10 points behind. That is just absolutely ridiculous. Look at Man City. Look at what they've done. Look at the players they've signed. Look at how it's helped them win. And in the season where they finished third, that's seen as a bad season for them. That's seen as an absolutely terrible season for them. Absolutely terrible. Now, people want to point to Manchester United. Oh, they've overpaid their players. Yeah, they overpaid their players. That's not a model you should copy. Manchester United, they have a lot of money, but they're like a kid that just got a trust fund from a parent and hasn't worked in a day. They don't know the value of money and they spend it recklessly. So that's Manchester United. That should not be the model you copy. Because Højlund, it wasn't like Højlund was tearing up Serie A, maybe had 25 goals to his name. No, he had about 8 or 9 goals. And Manchester United rushed up, paid 75 million euros for him. And we wages to match. So you can't use that as an excuse. You can't compare a Højlund to a Gyökeres or an Osimhen. You can't say, oh, look at how Manchester United overpaid for Anthony, overpaid for for Højlund. You can't use that as a reasoning for Chelsea not to sign the right players and pay them what they're worth. And I keep telling people, for me, £2,000 a month is crazy money. It's crazy money. So £250,000 a week is mad money. But footballers are in a different world. They're in a different realm. We can't use ourselves as everyday people to compare to footballers and say, oh, this player earns this much, so the club should. No. You should compare the caliber of player to his peers. You should be comparing a Gyökeres or an Osimhen to a Haaland, what Haaland is earning, to what the Salah is earning, because they could have that kind of impact in your team for Chelsea. So you can't be saying, oh, this wage structure, oh, 100,000. £100,000 a year, a week salary, that is what Nicholas Jackson would give you. That's just the truth. You don't want to pay the big bucks, you have to cope with Jackson. Don't complain then. That's the truth. That's how it's always been. In fact, in every industry, the best people earn the highest wages. It may not be at the level of what footballers earn or what athletes earn, but the best players, the best architect, the best project manager, the best web designer earns the most. Some people come into a business and just to listen to you, you could pay them, £5,000 a day or £2,000 or £3,000 a day just for them to be in a meeting with you. While some other people in the same profession will probably earn that £2,000 in a month. So for top players, you have to pay top dollar or top pound. All this mocking about with Emegha, Sesko, Ekitike doesn't make sense to me. Especially, I've said it, timing is everything. If this was the first window, second window, then I would say, okay, Sesko, come in, you grow with the team, you grow with your Jacksons, you grow with your, all these other young players in the team, you grow with them. But now this is 6 windows deep, and you must be winning, because winning is like, it's a habit. Losing is a habit. When people begin to lose, it becomes habitual. It becomes second nature. Sometimes you can't even fight it off. So you must start winning. Chelsea must start winning. And to win, you can have all the tactics in the world, all the X's and O's, but you must have the right quality of players on the pitch to deliver for you. You must. And we as fans, Chelsea fans, you cannot keep listening to silly PR, whether from the board or whomever, and start arguing about salaries and wages. Because for some fans, it's like a flex. Oh, this player is on £50,000 a week. Or this player is on £25,000 a week. But then that player that's on £25,000 a week probably scores 7 goals a season for you. And then you complain. Because that's what you've bought. If you buy a smartwatch from Wish at £2, and someone buys a smartwatch from a top shop for maybe £50, £60 or £100, £200, you cannot expect to get the same sort of quality. When you bought that £2.50 smartwatch and it doesn't measure your vitals accurately, you can't complain, because that's what you've paid for. So the same thing, when you sign that cheap striker so you can go on streams to flex, oh, we didn't spend that much, we signed him for £2 million, we're paying £50,000 a week, and it doesn't deliver, you cannot complain, because that is what you've backed. That is what you say you've wanted. You cannot complain. You cannot complain. That's what you want, and that's what you've paid for, and that's what you deserve. We've known for a long time that Chelsea needed a striker. We've known. Even from when Dr. Fofana was at the club, we went along, he's now back, and thankfully he's now training again. I think he's recovered from his injury from the surgery, so he's now training again. So good to see that. But you have to decide, do we really want to go far in the Champions League? Do we really want to go far as Chelsea Football Club in the Premier League? Maybe win it? Do we really want to go far, win maybe a treble of all the domestic cups, win of all the cups, maybe win the Champions League, win the FA Cup, win the Carabao Cup? Do you want to do that? Or do you want to land back in Conference League again? Maybe you go to Champions League for one season and then the next season you're right back, at the Conference League. Do you want to do that? And then when you've asked yourself this question as an ownership, as a fan base, then you make the decision to sign the kind of striker you want that can help deliver this to you. People come up with all sorts of take about Victor Osimhen, especially. He can't do this, he can't score goals. Someone came on Sky Sports and was just a barefaced liar. Someone who's refused to do his research and gone about how Victor Osimhen doesn't press, which is the primary thing. That once you watch Victor Osimhen, that is one thing he does primarily. You see that immediately. You can even make a mistake to think that that's all he does. But for someone to say he doesn't press, but people would latch onto that when they watch that Sky Sports whatever. They say, "Oh, Victor Osimhen doesn't press." Oh yeah, he doesn't press. When people don't even watch these players, some people don't watch it. I've watched this player, Victor Osimhen. I've watched him since he was 17, he was 16, up to this point. And so there's nothing anyone is going to come and tell me, I don't care with the big platform you have, you could have 2 billion subscribers. If you say trash about Victor Osimhen, then you don't know what you're talking about. If you say he doesn't know how to press, if you say he doesn't know how to score goals, then just go away. Look at Diego Costa. Diego Costa was not the loveliest of persons. He had technique, but he wasn't as silky as Hazard. But he got you those goals. Didier Drogba wasn't as silky on the ball as Juan Mata, but he got you those goals. The goals that give Chelsea Champions League, give Chelsea league titles. It was Didier Drogba. Because of his ability to score goals, to come up in big games, to even in games where he's not scoring, putting the fear of God in defenders. And right now on this list, there are only 2 players right now that can do this. Osimhen, Gyökeres, maybe Isak, but at this minute, I think Isak will be staying at Newcastle. And let's not forget, it's like we've all seem to have forgotten, Newcastle United, their owners, they have the money to pay Isak whatever he wants. So, and now then the Champions League, I don't think it's going anywhere, because I think that would have been the only lure away from Newcastle United, which should have been, oh, no Champions League football. I want to go to a club that, plays Champions League. And maybe they'll say, oh, you've been a good servant for Newcastle United, or let's let you go where you want to go and play Champions League. But now, they've got the Champions League, so I don't think he's going anywhere. They've got the money to offer him, whatever wage amount he wants a week. So I don't think he's going anywhere. So there are only 2 strikers right now in the market that I think are ready to go, plug and play, come into the team, to give you leadership, to give you goals, to give you tenacity in the team. Like I said, Sesko is good, but he's another future project. People who keep saying, bring Sesko, bring Emegha. 2-3 games into the season, then they'll begin to use this, what I'm telling you right now, they begin to use that as an excuse. Meanwhile, right now, they ignore it when you say it. Meanwhile, right now, they will ignore it. They'll say, no, that's not the case. It's young, doesn't matter. If you're good enough, you're good enough. No. Certain things come with experience. And for Ekitike, like I said, his profile is not the kind of profile Chelsea needs. If you watch Chelsea, if you follow Chelsea throughout the season, you know what I'm talking about. Remember the Newcastle game a couple of games ago that Chelsea lost to Newcastle? There was a cross that came into the box. Jackson did not make a move towards the ball. He didn't even breathe in the general direction of the ball. Ekitike, you may say, is a slightly better player technically than a Nicholas Jackson, but profile-wise, he's so similar that he's not going to go for those sort of balls. He's 6'3", but he's not going to be that aerial threat. He's not going to have that physicality in the box. And my Chelsea needs that. We need that kind of striker. We need that kind of striker that can get you goals from anything. That can carry 3-4 defenders on his back. And we've seen Victor Osimhen do it in the Serie A for Napoli. We've seen him do it for Galatasaray. Some people want to poo-poo the Turkish league. Why not have at you? Go ahead. Say what you like. But he's gone there, he's done it. And when he played against Spurs, what did he do to Spurs? Although Spurs will always be themselves, but they ended up being the winners of the Europa League. But what did he do when he came against Spurs? In the Champions League, a couple of seasons ago for Napoli, he gave Van Dijk a run for his money. He rattled him. And Van Dijk could and should have been sent off in that game. If you watch that game. And that's the kind of defender you will be coming up against. So is your Ekitike going to be up for that kind of battle? Those are the questions that people don't want to answer, don't want to ask and don't want to answer. When I talk about the leadership thing, it seems intangible, but it's so important that Enzo Maresca in a press conference mentioned it, that you need to have leaders on the pitch. And right now, we don't really have this on the pitch. We have players who are very, very good, who have quality on the ball, but are they leaders? Because sometimes you need people to show up on the pitch, to give direction to the players on the pitch, not tactically, but in terms of being inspirational on the pitch. And players, the way players operate is when they see a teammate do something, especially a player who is highly regarded in terms of pay, in terms of reputation, do something, it triggers everyone else. And that's why I keep saying Victor Osimhen is that guy. When he starts pressing, everyone else will press. When he starts pressing, chasing the defenders, instantly that will trigger the press. Everyone will start pressing. And that's so important. So I want to know your personal opinions in the comment section. Let me know what you think about any of the strikers. Who would you prefer? You want the Victor Gyökeres? Would you want the Benjamin Sesko? Would you even want the Ekitike? Or would you like Emegha? Or would you, like me, go for Victor Osimhen? So let me know your personal opinions on these players. We've had the Ben Jacobs of this world, saying Chelsea would be making their decision on a striker this week. Let's see what's going to happen this Tuesday. 3 more days to go in the week. Let's see what's going to happen. Maybe include the weekend, so that makes it even 5 more days to go. So let's see if indeed anything is going to change. But the message is clear. My own perspective: if Chelsea wants to win, like you just want to go and have a good time in the Champions League and say, oh, this is how it looks like. Remind yourself about how the Champions League feels like, and then come back. If you want to be there regularly, you must get the big boy strikers. And if you want to get those big boy strikers, you must pay them top bucks. There's no ifs, ands, or maybes about that. And there are other parts of the pitch where Chelsea needs leadership. The centre back position, you need a leader in that place. And I say Tony Rudiger is my choice, because instantly, the moment he lands on that pitch, instantly everyone will get what it's all about. I talked about De Bruyne for that midfield, because he comes in, instantly that winning mentality oozes into everyone's lungs. And those are the sort of signings that Chelsea need to make this season. This season is not the season for, the coming season is not a season for 10 players, 15 players. It's not a season to spend 1 more billion, and then after that 1 more billion, half of them are out on loan, and none can come in and perform. So the season, Chelsea must get it right. Todd Bowley has been on several sort of seminars and conferences saying strikers don't grow on trees. Obviously, no human grow on trees. No, you can't plant a human. No human you don't have people growing on trees. It's not possible. It's biologically impossible. But you have strikers who are available. And to show your ambition, because you always have teams that are competing for the interest of strikers or players. So you must show your ambition. You must show your ambition. Now, people want to say, oh, this player is not technical enough. Oh, Erling Haaland was signed by Pep Guardiola, one of a manager that's always emphatic about, technical players who are look nice on the ball. But he got to a point where he realized, man, we need to get those goals. We need to get those goals. We need those players that we can just hit and hope. And Man City this season did a lot of hitting and hoping this season. That's how, Chelsea lost the game against Man City. If you remember, ball played into Erling Haaland. He holds the ball up. Cowell too tight to him. He holds the ball up, puts Cowell away, lays the ball up for Foden, 1v1 goalkeeper. And Jackson, not quite that kind of player. Ekitike, he looks like the new shiny thing, but he's not that kind of player. If he's running the channels, having that pace, cutting in on the strike from the left, scoring, yeah, he can do all that. Being absolutely alive in the box, not really. People come around with XG business. Oh, he's outperformed his XG. Okay. But eye test matters. Stats are very good. They indicate certain things, but they shouldn't be the end or be all. For instance, a player could pass the ball, could pass 100 short passes, to a teammate who is just 3 inches away, and then you say, oh, 100 passes completed. But contextually, those passes, were they really of any significance to that team winning? Were they really of any significance? And back to the point of where I'm saying Victor Osimhen or Victor Gyökeres are strikers that Chelsea need to get. When you see how everyone wants to press, every team, I assure you, even Sunderland that has just been promoted, would want to do that high pressing thing. So if teams choose to press, if you have a Gyökeres or an Osimhen, you can put that ball in behind, and with their pace, they are gone, or they can just pin the defender down, hold the defender, turn, chance, score. So that's why, like an Ekitike wouldn't cut it for me, especially as the only striker. You can sign him and make him an option, an option that you can use to do some tactical switches and all, because in football, once you start winning, using one tactical style, then it begs to reason that opposition teams would come up with maybe different style to try to approach you. Maybe if you start winning, being direct to Victor Osimhen, maybe teams will begin to drop off you a bit, and then maybe a Hugo Ekitike can become useful. But to make him the out and out number one striker for me, wouldn't work for me. Some people have said about Liam Delap. For me, Liam Delap, like I've said, profile-wise, yes. He's got the physicality, he's got the pace, he's got the power, he's got the strength. But experience-wise, no. Reputation-wise, no. When you say experience, people jump up and down, especially fans who are, because you have some fans now, they have several niches they've bought into. They don't really care about the club so much, but they buy into different niches. Oh, some are Cobhamites, anything that has to do with Cobham, any player from Cobham is the best player that will be used. Some are Clear Lake worshippers. Any decision that Clear Lake makes, that's his decision that is good. That's what they want to preach. Even if I find it difficult to believe that they actually believe everything that they say, but they bought into those niches. So if Clear Lake comes up to say we're not signing a striker, we believe in Nicholas Jackson, you will have people who say, oh yeah, Nicholas Jackson is the guy. So if Clear Lake Capital decides to come in to say we want a Liam Delap, that he's the absolute guy we believe in, people say yes, it's the guy. But there's certain questions that you have to answer. 12 goals for Ipswich Town. On the sort of pro side of it, you can say for a club that was just promoted and relegation candidates that actually got relegated, 12 goals isn't really bad. If he gets to play for a Chelsea, if he gets to play for an Arsenal, if he gets to play for even Manchester United, he may get to score 20, 25 goals because you have more chances will be created for him and he will score. Now, that's a fair sort of assessment. But what is also fair is this, right? When you play for Ipswich, due respect to them, teams don't mark you as high and as hard as they would mark you when you play for traditional top 4 or top 5 or top 6. They wouldn't mark you the same way. It's just normal. When they want to play you, they play with as a crazy high line as possible because they believe we have of a better quality than this team. We can just oppress them without pressing, and that leaves room in behind for someone like a Liam Delap to take charge. But when you're now playing for the big boys, so to speak, it's now a different kettle of fish. The pressure is now different. If Chelsea goes to a Brighton, for instance, next season and draws, it's a bad result. If Sunderland goes to a Brighton next season, even at home to a Brighton and draws 0-0 or 1-1, it will be seen as a positive result, brilliant result. So the pressure is different. So if a striker for Chelsea scores 15 goals, I'm saying, oh, it's an okay season. But if a striker from Sunderland, or as in this case, Ipswich, scores 12, 13, 14 goals, Even if that team gets relegated, it's a brilliant, absolutely brilliant statistical season for that player. Because at Chelsea, the pressure and demands are different, are higher, and so they should be. And if you want to operate in that under that kind of pressure, you need players that are used to that sort of level, that are used to winning in spite of those pressures, that are used to performing in spite of those pressures, and that can be inspirational to other players in the team. This is very important, but some people who choose to ignore it. But that's the truth. That's the truth. Seriously, So let me know your thoughts and opinions on the strikers that I've talked about. And then also, there's a video I posted out this morning or earlier on today. I talked about Eric Chell. If you're a fan of Nigerian football, you can watch that video as well. I talked about Eric Chell and Eric Ten Hag becoming the new coach of Bayer Leverkusen. And I give my own opinion on what I think would happen. And just hopefully Victor Boniface gets to get more playing time than he had towards the end of Xabi Alonso's tenure at Bayer Leverkusen. So let's see how that shakes down. And Manchester United fans, if Eric Ten Hag goes to Bayer Leverkusen and by any stretch of the imagination wins the Bundesliga, then Manchester United should close up shop. So at this point, I've come to the end of this video. I want to say to everyone who's watched, thanks for watching, thanks for supporting this channel, thanks for subscribing and sharing this content. And I'll see you on yet another video.